Dear classes, I'm continuing, with your permission, with my little my two little poetry talks. The second one being about reading Shakespeare, reading him aloud, and just reading him, reading him silently. And I want to look at Sonnet 138. The fact that it is that late in the sonnet sequence marks it as belonging to a later period of the story that Shakespeare tells during the sonnets, which are a kind of diary in verse, and which chronicle the agony of his relationship with a beautiful young man and a dark woman. Dark either because she is a somewhat sinister figure, or dark because she had dark complexion, certainly dark hair, and dark for all those reasons, perhaps, we don't know. And the pursuit of her, of who she may have been, has given many lovers of Shakespeare and history a good living. I mean, literally, in some cases, a good lifetime. So this poem comes relatively late, when the agony that Shakespeare has been through, when he discovers that by introducing his beloved boy, his beloved young man, to his beloved lady, he's triggered a romance between them. And this is no mean story. The sonnets are a great narrative. This obviously has caused him the most terrible grief, and he has asked himself how he could ever have been so stupid as to introduce them. Anyway, at this point in the story, he is really coming to a bittersweet conclusion. He is still, I think we may take it, with her, and yet he's well aware that she isn't telling him the truth about her amours. And so he's trying to figure out how best to adjust to that fact. And he goes home, as I imagine it. I always have him going home, because he can't be out there writing as we could, scribbling a quick poem on our phone or in a notebook. He has to go home. He has to have the ink. He has to have the inkwell and the candle, perhaps, to hand. It doesn't have to be a candle, but I always see him going home after a long day and writing. And he writes as follows: "When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties." Now, just taking that opening for a moment, those opening four lines, when my love swears that she is made of truth, and this has a double meaning in Shakespearean times, a double meaning that still exists. Be true to me is both tell me the truth and be faithful to me. So when my love swears that she is made of truth, she is all truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies. So the doubleness of communication here is so perfectly portrayed. He believes her, and he doesn't believe her for a moment. That she, he goes on, in order that she might think me some untutored youth, innocent boy, unlearned in the world's false subtleties, an innocent who believes every word she says. So in trusting her, which he doesn't really, but in trusting that she's telling him the truth, he is portraying himself to her as a sweet, wide-eyed boy, an innocent boy. So he goes on, thus, vainly thinking that she thinks me young, young enough to believe her, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply, I credit her false-speaking tongue. I say, yep, I believe every word you're saying. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not, she is unjust? Right? Why doesn't she own up? She's not true to me. And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit lies in seeming trust. And age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore, I lie with her, lie obviously here as a pun, I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies we've flattered me. So our lies flatter us. We flatter each other by accepting our lies. Her lie that she is true to me, my lie that I'm a young innocent boy and I believe every word you say. And it contains, the sonnet contains in the 10th line one of the sweetest, saddest, and yet sanest lines ever written about love and companionship, when he says, oh, love's, actually the 9th line, oh, love's best habit, best outfit, and best habit lies in seeming trust. You know, the best way to go is at least pretend that you trust each other. And it feels like the fruit of a long struggle to find out the truth and find out how to deal with the truth, whether to accept lies, and that in his maturity, he's perhaps not as old as he portrays himself as being in many of the sonnets. He calls himself beated and chopped with tanned antiquity. He's maybe a bit beaten and chopped. As he says, when my glass shows me myself indeed, that what he sees is this wrinkled ancient, but he's not really. It's just he doesn't have the silky smooth skin of his beloved young man. By comparison, I guess he sees himself as being an aged man. So in his maturity, he has come to think, well, you know what? Let's pretend. Let us enjoy. Let's not press each other for the truth, for the desperate satisfaction of the truth. Let's let it be. I think something easier to accept and resign yourself to, perhaps if you're older. Younger people are rarely prepared to do that unless they're in such helpless circumstances that they need to believe their lover, even though they know that he or she is lying to them. They need to pretend to believe in order to keep their lover in their life. And this is something that is accepted with a very different kind of grace in this poem, which I feel you should read all of Shakespeare's verse, both with an intimate knowledge of the rhythms, which are the underlying rhythms, when my love swears that she is made of truth. Now, not every line could be read like that as 5 iambic beats, but you certainly wouldn't want to read that line that way. So you read it with a deep sense of the underlying rhythm, and yet with a conversational intimacy. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties, thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply, I credit her false-speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not, she is unjust? And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her, and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. It's such a sweet, intimate poem that you can afford, I think, to read it as intimately as that. There's one of you maybe reading this, viewing this, and maybe not. You know who you are, if you are seeing this, who always asks me to read this sonnet in the voice that Shakespeare would have heard it, the accent in which he would have heard it, that curious Stratford accent, which is a mixture of north and west, and the middle of England, the Black Country. And so in his head he's hearing something more like this. When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lays, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties. Thus, vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best, simply I credit her false-speaking tongue. Actually, I credit her, no, maybe her, false-speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lay with her, and she with me, and in our faults by lays we flattered be. So it's not very different, is it? When I do read it like that, my students seem sometimes to exclaim at its alienness. It sounds awfully familiar to me, but also I'm familiar with saying young as young, because all of us in England, that little country, are aware of what north and west and east bring to our accent in the way of changes. You don't have to cross what would be an entire country in the United States to meet a totally different voice. So that's right there and very close to us. So that's my my suggestion as far as reading Shakespeare is concerned. Do be aware of the rhythms and where they change. When my love swear that I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's full subtleties. It's very regular iambic verse. Thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply, not simply, simply, so we reverse the iamb into a trochee here. Simply I credit her false-speaking tongue. So that stops the verse and turns it back on itself, because it's not simply I credit, simply I credit. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed, as always. After a line beginning with a trochee and turning the verse back on itself, the bard returns to a basic iambic rhythm. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not I that I am old? It's all very regular. Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore, or if you just went therefore, but it's therefore, I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. So an immensely regular iambic poem, and all the more reason to split it up. Therefore, I lie with her and she with me, and in our faults by lies we flattered be. Particularly a sonnet like this demands to be reduced almost to a little speech on stage, and to transcend the iambic pentameter and become an intimate, almost letter-writing voice. Thank you, my dears. Have a wonderful day.